Today's session is going to be the second in the series of Conquering the Business Quest. I don't even remember what we call it, Mason, but it's been really fun. So I am, I guess, your host for today, Nick Paladino. Been with Blue Triangle for about 2 years, but I was a customer before that. So been in and around the tool for about 8 years. Mason, you want to give a quick reminder?
Here, oh no, how long? 6 or 7 years working with customers over the years, and before that, doing some load testing. So performance is my main focus, but this revenue stuff ties in very nicely to that. So we'll see some pretty interesting conversion curve things here today.
Yeah, very cool. So, as a general reminder, this is the second of business analytics. We're calling it Advanced Business Analytics, Slaying the Revenue Beast. And that's because we have this great and wonderful start to our quest. And this is me and Mason. We were at a axe throwing event as a team building up in Richmond, and we ended up getting to hold these swords and take these pictures. Although I see my sword was photoshopped here. It was a katana. I think they wanted me to be a little bit more dragon slaying. I think that's what that's about. But if you participated in the last session, then you'll know that Mason continuously was telling everyone that he was stealing my thunder. So today I am bringing the thunder. And I can see. Cool. All right. We're done with that. That was fun. Advanced Business Analytics agenda. So we're going to be talking about the revenue calculator, how to use it, how to understand more than you knew you could know. And that's kind of the thing that my personal journey kind of took me towards. Is as I started to get into the data, I realized that conversion curves were telling me more than just simply performance makes business better, right? It was telling me a lot about what the experience was, what was actually happening with marketing factors. And I'm going to get into those factors and we're going to talk about it and the indications of the 5 forces. And then this was actually a typo. I typed digital experience and I accidentally hit the caps locks, but I kept it because I thought it looked great. Digital experience breakdown looks great, right? Lowercase e, capital experience. I almost did XP to go with our little like slang dragon thing, but I decided to keep the nerdisms a little bit to myself on that one. But the 5 forces, if you're not familiar with the 5 forces, we have great help articles. It's a long concept that we've been talking about for a long time at Blue Triangle. It's all talking about the 5 different aspects. The first, marketing, then you have aesthetics, you have usability, you have seasonality, you have site speed. These specific links here, and we're gonna send a link out. This will allow you to start diving into that. I'm not going to talk too much about the 5 forces today. I want to talk about the areas that they impact, and that's volume, demand, experience, and then performance itself. Now, one of the really interesting ones about this is that performance, speed here, I'm going to boil it down, I'm just calling it speed so that everything's one word. It does not drive demand. It simply erodes it. So we have done a lot of things in our business to be able to drive demand to complete a specific outcome. If that's in a retail space, actually selling an item, or if that's in the healthcare space, trying to complete a journey to be able to look at your claim, whatever it is, whatever's building the demand for a user to be able to complete the thing, the task, the goal, speed just gets in our way. So if we have a compelling event, if we have something that is just driving our users to our experience, if we give them a slow experience, we are eroding that journey. So that's really important to remember, and we'll get into the details of that. So as we go through, I'm going to first give you a baseline of volume. I'm going to give you a baseline of demand, experience, and then performance. Just definitions pretty much. So volume is exactly what it sounds like. It's one of the more simple ones of this concept. That's all about what we can do to drive top end hits. It's literally just let's get people into that experience itself. The rest of the journey is all about getting them down into the goal. Now, the goal, that's where we drive demand, but here we're going to instantly add some volume. With demand, it's all about getting people to that end of the goal. Let's get people out of the funnel. In a retail experience, like I said, that's all about paying us money. In a healthcare experience, in any kind of ad-based, it's all about figuring out how to drive to that final goal. Now, that's still demand. Just because users aren't necessarily buying a product doesn't mean that it's not demand. So demand is all about wanting to have users complete the goal and willingness to finish the journey. Then we have experience. Experience is all about creating compelling features inside every single one of these steps to continue the journey. And something that's super important here, great experiences in higher funnel stages drive volume for lower funnel steps. So remember that. It's all about giving volume, right? You effectively, as a upper funnel part of your journey, you are effectively the marketing team for the lower funnel of the journey, because you just want to drive volume and you want to keep users coming in. So when we start talking about volume and demand and the influences that we can read in the conversion curves, don't forget that. That's very, very important. So when we talk about speed, it's all about downloading the entire internet. But it's going to impact every step of the journey. And again, it's about eroding demand. It's not about building demand. We don't build demand by giving fast experiences. We lose demand by giving slow ones. And so it's all about making sure that we maintain that good experience through that whole process. And using conversion curves, we can extract speed and speed alone and understand how that's influencing our customers in continuing their journey. So conversion curves, here's the big one. I pulled this demo example. It's just demo data, but it's a great demo example because it gives us a difference in all of these factors. It shows a demand difference, it shows a volume difference, it shows a performance difference, and it shows an experience difference. And so we're going to get into the details here. Now, we can look at the top end numbers, but really I'm more interested in the graph and the cohorts that exist within this. So when we get into volume, volume is, again, all about getting more. Let's have more sessions inside our sample. So the before of this chart, that's going to be that dark blue bubble. Now, this, of course, is your session distribution. So everybody on the left, that's users that hit the page in 1 second. Everybody that's on the right, that's users that hit the page in 5 seconds. Now, we can see with this light blue bubble, or wave, or however you want to describe it, there's less of it. It's smaller. It's shrunken, right? And so if we take the actual hits difference, just simply hits, it's going from 857,000 to 740,000. That's about a 14% drop. Does that mean we lost 14% of revenue? It may not. There's a really big assumption here that both populations, the dark blue and the light blue, have the same intent to complete the goal. So when we want to talk about and extract some examples of what I'm talking about by they have the same intent, imagine you sell various products. You're just like kind of omni-channel. Clothing, electronics, kitchenware, etc. You're competing with the likes of Amazon, Walmart, Target. You just have lots of products. You want to create a campaign for these yoga computers, and it's going to be a big sale. And you send this over to your ad agency, and you say to them, I want a yoga ad campaign, and you get the best yoga ad campaign for yoga clothing. But the landing page was still your computer landing page because that's the landing page you told them to use. So now all of a sudden you're driving a very compelling marketing event where everybody wants to click on this yoga event, but they are landing on a yoga computer page. This is going to increase volume a lot, but it's going to drop demand. Now, this is a very extreme example of what happens every single day in every single industry, because you are going out and you're creating these marketing campaigns that go after populations that are not the same as your organic traffic. So the volume will go up. The demand may go up with it. You might create a more compelling event because your volume might go after a promotion. It might say, oh, we have this promotion on this great product. It's 50% off. Come buy it. That's going to drive volume and drive demand because people are going to be very compelled to complete their journey to get that sale. So it's all about figuring out how that is. Now, getting into and completing that story, we have to think about demand. Now, looking at this curve, and I'm zooming in for you so that you can kind of see it a little bit better. We have a demand drop, but there is something weird on the right side. It actually increases. So when we start talking about the influences of demand, it's price, product, promotion, and experience. Experience drives demand. So what's happening over there, we'll get to that in a little bit. But the assumption here is that the volume is equally impacted by price, product, promotion, and experience. That's to say the dark blue bubble and the light blue bubble have an equal impact. based on the demand. So let's talk about some examples of demand. This is the swatch, Moon Swatch. It is a swatch that is built in the style of an Omega, a luxury brand. This created huge demand because it brought the price point way down. And so users, or customers really, I should say, want this watch, and they were lining up for it. The PlayStation 5, this is an obvious example. People want this thing. They were crushing it when it was brand new. They were waiting in line. They were constantly refreshing their browsers. These drive huge lines. Now, is everyone willing to wait in the line that wants one of these things? No. You have to make sure that you can extract and understand where that demand comes from, because more users than who are willing to wait are going to want this thing. So it's all about figuring out that compelling events drive the demand. So Black Friday is a great example for e-commerce. You're going to drive a lot of demand during that just because people want to find those deals. And so you're going to be able to have higher demand in that process. Open enrollment in healthcare. That's obviously a very important time. If a user must go select their healthcare plan, they must complete their journey. They're going to put up with a lot more than a user that doesn't have to complete their journey. So compelling events drive demand. We can go over a bunch of these different ones, and there's a ton of them that I have set up in here. But inside this, the point that I want to pull out of that is that compelling events are what drives the demand, not necessarily the experience, not necessarily the marketing event, but the compelling events themselves. Now, it might be a marketing event like an email campaign or whatever, but demand is where we need to be thinking about how we shift this. And that gets us into experience, and this is where we can start using the conversion curve to understand what's going on. This is my personal favorite, and this is where the aha moment started coming from for me. And that's that I can start looking at these conversion curves and the slope specifically. So here, demand dropped on the fast side and increased on the slow side. So what happened? And so what we're doing, and here we're back into watches. Say we're trying to buy this watch, and our conversion rate, if everything is healthy, is 4%. Well, what if we didn't serve up that free shipping banner at the top? What if we didn't serve up the product image? What if we didn't serve up the product description? What if the only thing we did was show a price and a buy now button? Is anyone going to buy it? Maybe someone adventurous enough to just say, hey, I have no idea what I'm getting, but $42, here you go, and go ahead and ship me whatever it is. Maybe they buy it. Maybe they don't. Who knows? But we are definitely going to lose conversion by not serving that up. And that's what's happening in this curve right here. So we have an unreliable experience that has been presented to our customers. So we're actually losing on that fast side. And the reason why it's faster is because content is not available to our customers. So we have a low content, low conversion. However, when things are reliable and when things are working, we have a slower experience. And that's why conversion goes up at a later time inside that conversion curve. So let's talk about the different curves and the indications of experience, because this is where you can start extracting a lot of really cool information. So here's your standard curve. This is a good experience. It's what you'd expect. It starts on the left side and it slowly slopes down to the right side. There's always going to be a correlation to performance in some way, shape, or form. Always, always, always. There's just no logic that says that a slower experience will convert better. If you see that, it means that something else is occurring in that experience. So this is what we expect. Now, as we start pursuing what we call a perceived performance, we want to start flattening that curve. This is the ideal state. We want a flat curve. There's still going to be a little bit of a correlation, but we want less of a correlation. We want it to not matter as much if someone gets a 2-second page versus a 1-second page. That's where we start getting into truly championing our reliability and our performance. It's all about making sure we have that flat experience. And we have the steep one. This is the exact opposite. We want to make sure that we don't do this. This means that we must rely on our engineering aspects to be super reliable to be able to present a good experience. And in this example, if they're not 1 second, we are losing 50% of our conversion just by becoming 2%, or 2 seconds, excuse me. So that is a huge erosion of our conversion. So when we start talking about some of the more advanced ones, we can start talking about that plateau. Plateau basically means diminished returns. At 3 seconds or better, there's really no correlation whatsoever. And that means that the experience itself may have a little bit of something going on. And we need to talk about exactly why we plateau. We also can talk about this one's always the elephant in the room, the upward sloping curve. This one generally indicates errors or missing content, not exclusively, but generally it indicates errors or missing content. So when we have that upward slope, it means, like what we were talking about with that watch example, we are eroding our conversion at fast tiers because we're not serving as much stuff, and we are faster because we're not serving as much stuff. So that stuff is important. And then lastly, my personal favorite, the double curve. Now, the double curve is particularly interesting because we end up having effectively 2 types of experiences on the page at once. That could be created from an error state, or that could be created from an A/B test, or a lot of different ways. But when you see a double curve, it means we need to decouple those 2 experiences from our analysis specifically. So as we're going through, I'm actually going to drill into that one a little bit. And I'm going to draw some pretty pictures for you. So here I'm zooming in, and then I'm going to show you where this double curve is. So first of all, we're going to have our fast session, and this is over here on the left side. And then we're going to have our slower experience. It's over here on the right side. Now, the light blue that I drew, this is the majority of our traffic. It's the larger bell curve. When I draw its correlation to conversion, it will look something like this. So users that fall within that experience will have something along these lines of a relationship to conversion, where we have that positive correlation. We have that standard curve. We have that, what I would consider more of an ideal state. We don't want that upward slope. That upward slope and that double curve is created because the faster group, that dark blue session, is converting down here. Now, when users are converting at a lower level, but they're faster, it's going to create that double curve situation. So now we have an opportunity to dive into maybe our A/B test. Maybe there's an error state, or maybe it's just that there's 2 different page names inside one data sample, and we need to just extract that. So there's a lot of ways we can tackle this, but it's basically combining 2 different experiences in one whenever you see this. And we need to think about how to extract that from our experience. Maybe it's new versus returning users, just have an entirely different recommendations set on the page. And because that's so much different, you're targeting a very specific thing. The new user is not converting as well because they are faster, but those personalizations aren't happening as much. So those kind of things can happen in the data. So the double curve allows us to know that there's something to really drill into. Now let's talk about the steep one. Steep one, actually, funny enough, is kind of a double curve. And it generally is whenever we see these 2 correlations. So here, this time we have the fast experience. And then we have the slower experience. And let's draw that slower experience conversion rate. It's something like this. And then the faster experience conversion rate, it's something like this. So in this, we have the exact opposite of what we were just talking about with the double curve, where the faster experience is so much better. We're presenting them with just a much better experience. We're converting better. Everything's going better. And it's allowing us to create that final outcome in a better way. So as we start to extract these 2, now we can understand maybe this A/B test is a net positive. Maybe we created a better experience. Maybe new users are having a better journey because they are new users and they don't have as much bloat on their system. Whatever it may be, it allows us to extract those 2. We need to make sure we decouple it. So I wanted to focus on those 2 particularly just because they were so unique and impactful, because kind of data sets are blending. So last, let's get into speed. This is all about eroding demand, and we need to make sure we do not do that. And this is the one that we were using before. I'm going to show you a more dramatic one because it's a lot easier to show you a dramatic one. But in this case, when we talk about speed, what we're really saying is we want to shift that session distribution. We're not touching that conversion rate curve at all. If we've touched the conversion rate curve, if it moves in any way, shape, or form, we have impacted the experience on the page. If the only thing we change is performance, we are shifting this curve. We're just pushing it to the left. So that's our goal. We want to shift everything to the left. And that looks something like this when it's a successful deployment. So we had a really long bell curve that had a really wide distribution. But when we make our fix and we start deploying it, everything shifts over here. So we have a 10-second session becomes a 5-second session, 8.5 becomes 3, a 6-second session, and our peak becomes 2 seconds. So everything squishes and concentrates on that faster experience. And when we overlay our conversion rate, remember, it's very important to consider that when you're improving only performance, that conversion rate curve does not change. So in a bubble, ideal state here, we are looking at just improving conversion by having more sessions be on that better conversion rate. And that will happen if, here's a big assumption, changing performance changes only performance and not the experience. That's super, super important. So when we think about experience before and think about how that conversion rate curve can change shape, we want to make sure that when we're improving performance, we isolate that. We're not telling you to go out and delete product images to make the site faster, because that will make the site faster. You obviously need the product images to be able to maintain a good experience on your page. So as you're trying to extract that and understand what it means to drive speed as a revenue driver, it's all about maintaining that experience. Or maybe you need to repair that experience, right? So that's how they're so tightly wound. So in terms of this chart, what I'm really saying is we want to maintain that conversion curve and shift the session distribution only. So when we start thinking about this in terms of a business outcome for performance. So the conclusion of all this allows us to understand the difference of the influences in totality, and then we can start using all of this information, understanding the different size of the chart for volume, understanding the different shifting of the conversion curve, so that's up or down, so the demand shifts, understanding how experience tilts one way or the next. Maybe it all of a sudden becomes upward sloping, understanding how performance shifts left or right. We can use all of that information, pull it out, and then we can start quantifying that to understand the differences between each of them. So in this example, we're driving a performance improvement that also improved experience a little bit, that drove some demand, but coincidentally volume dropped. So our net revenue overall in this situation is $760,000. It's obviously totally hypothetical, but the net revenue in this current model that we've been looking at is 760,000. So overall, that really covers it. And I wanted to make sure to leave 5 minutes or so to take some questions, but that's kind of the basis of it. I'm super jazzed about this. So as you start unpacking this, I know these are like really kind of heavy concepts, and it took me years to really latch on personally. And so I don't expect you to watch this 20-minute thing live and then even rewatch it maybe in another 15 minutes or whatever, and then just automatically get it. So talk to your CS team, bring me in. We're going to talk about this. We're going to continue to iterate, and we're going to help you champion these concepts, because this is when things become really, really cool, in my opinion.
So I know we spent a little bit of time on some of these different conversion rate curve shapes. I think we could probably spend way more time digging into even just one of these examples. One of the questions is regarding upward sloping conversion rate curves. Do we want to try to go into a little bit more detail quickly on what could cause some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in general, the upward sloping curve is going to be created by experiences that have the possibility of being presented not in full. That wasn't very graceful, but basically, if the experience itself is unreliable and you may have parts that are missing, and you may have a performance improvement in the fact that it's missing, you're going to create that upward sloping curve. And that's where we can start identifying and helping to champion that improvement, is understanding that repairing that curve is an opportunity that's huge.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced some of that too. Investigating sites and seeing double bands of traffic where some users are experiencing one thing and some are experiencing another, and that does impact curves quite a bit. Christina asked, is the double curve scenario, in the double curve scenario, how are you using Blue Triangle to isolate the curves?
Yeah.
And identifying which performance metrics they may be related to?
Great question, Christina. Love that. So the best way to do it, or really the starting point, is we generally call it right out of the box revenue opportunity, but you can obviously rename revenue. So a lot of our customers rename revenue to something like lead opportunity or outcome opportunity or whatever it may be. So maybe you're driving events, maybe you're driving revenue, but it's the slow pages. Now you'll dive into that revenue opportunity page, and then you'll be able to click into the conversion rate curves and see them. So when we bubble up the opportunity that says your product page is the highest opportunity, or your login page, or your search page, or whatever it is, you'll click into them and you'll be able to see those different conversion rate curves. So as you start championing any specific domain, it's best to be able to extract out of that. And then you can take that information over to the revenue calculator, which is kind of, of course, I created slideware to do all this today, but when you extract it out to the revenue calculator, you'll be able to dissect it very specifically on the page name. So when you see that double curve, it does indicate that we have a double experience that we need to troubleshoot.
Excellent. How can we reach the visualization UI, which you just demonstrated?
Great question, Robin. Apologies, I did not baseline that very well. So in the all right, so I'm gonna reshare just super quick. All right, so here's your Blue Triangle portal. You may use the Simple Light theme, which I use. This is our demo data. Up here in the menu in the top left, you'll click the menu, and then you go to Business Analytics, and then you go to Revenue Calculator. When you're in Revenue Calculator, this allows you to see that information that we were bubbling up. In this case, I think it's about to render the homepage. Yeah, this is the homepage of our demo site. You can then add a comparison. And when you add a comparison, this is where you can select your different time frame, whatever it may be. I'm just going to a month ago. I'm actually going to not do those. And then I add that comparison. This allows you to have that comparative state. And now here we're looking at one where we concentrated traffic. This is actually really interesting. Of course, it's demo data, but this is really interesting. So we're concentrating traffic before, and now we have a really wide range. So it means that in this case, we deployed something, and in that we created a faster experience that's possible, and it's converting way higher. But look at this, we can convert really low and have a really slow experience. So our new version is just, it's widened the bell curve. Is it a net positive or not? That's where we can start using this methodology to calculate whether or not it is net positive. Just looking at it, just eyeball effect, I would imagine it is, because this looks like it's a little bit of an upward sloping curve that we repaired. I got really lucky doing this. I randomly clicked around. This is really lucky that I saw this on. But yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. If you use the other theme, like say our standard light theme, the button will be right over here, Business Analytics. Click that, Revenue Opportunity, and Revenue Calculator exists right in here.
Quick follow-up to that question is, do we want to talk a little bit about brand analysis and funnel visualization UI? So I think the quick answer for now is there are conversion events that aren't necessarily revenue related, but you want to know, hey, this campaign is driving, I'm using air quotes, I know you can't see me, but some sort of conversion event to a brand page or to a campaign or whatever it may be. You may associate value with that. So what you can do is assign a value to that, again, using air quotes, brand conversion that you can then trend just like this. So, but yeah, this might be a good idea for another later topic.
So the question is, did I bring the thunder? I was told not to say that, by the way. Everyone said it'd be way too cheesy. So here I am doing it against all advice, but I've done it.
I realize that this is all my fault for saying stealing Nick's thunder last week so many times. So thank you everybody for joining. Definitely appreciate it. Definitely appreciate the questions as well. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to the Blue Triangle team and representatives that you work with, and we'll do our best to answer you. But in the meantime, have a great rest of the day, and thank you once again.